Tottenham Hotspur have been linked with a bunch of strikers that we could sign this summer, and what better way to rank them than a tier list? Who doesn't love a tier list, eh? Welcome back to the Ben Bowman YouTube channel. If you're new around here, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe for more Tottenham content. Today, we're going to go through all of the strikers that Tottenham have been linked with so far this summer. The good, reliable Alistair Gold yesterday gave us a big, fresh update on some of the names that we've been linked with, some names that we thought we might be linked with that aren't a target for Tottenham. And today, we're going to rank every single one of those. We've also added in some extra strikers that we haven't really been linked with, but are just a bit fun to chuck in there as well. Like I said, make sure you like the video if you enjoy it, and let's get into it. There are a few strikers behind my big head here that you can't actually see. So let's go through the tiers. We've got my top target, which I think we'll come to at the end. I think we'll try and place all of the other ones, and then almost by process of elimination, we'll get to my top target. We've got good signing, a bit of a risk, not realistic, avoid, sack, Johan Lang. Might be a bit harsh, but there are a couple of names here that I think if we did sign, there would be a little bit of uproar amongst the fan base. Some would be amazing targets for Spurs. Absolutely amazing targets. The not realistic section, I think, is the most interesting one, because there's a couple of names on here that straight away you look at and think would be your top target, but you just can't see us getting over the line. So let's go through them then. Let's start with Jonathan David, where is Jonathan David? He is here. Jonathan David is a name that has kind of emerged over the last couple of days as one of Tottenham's top targets. And I think he's kind of split opinion amongst the fan base a little bit. I've never been massively sold on Jonathan David. I kind of feel like the fact that every summer, or even every transfer window, he gets linked with a club and it never materialises. And to me, that's a little bit of a red flag. But that might just be me being a little bit snobby, because if you look at his profile, it kind of suits what Spurs want a little bit. I think some fans would also see it as the cheap option a little bit. He's got 1 year left in his contract. I think the president of Lille has said that he can leave this summer. So I think he'd be available for around £30 million. West Ham and Chelsea are also reportedly interested in him as well. But Alistair Gold said that he is one of our top targets this summer. He's prolific with both feet. He's got great pace, good anticipation, good movement, good composure in front of goal, a great knack of sniffing out chances as well. He's not the tallest, but he's got great ball retention. Spurs, what are we looking for in our striker? There's kind of two different profiles of an Ange Postecoglou number 9, I think. I think a lot of people thought that Richarlison wouldn't necessarily fit what we want to do, but he definitely has. I think Ange Postecoglou in the past, when you look at someone like Kyogo, has definitely been more of a fox in the box, and I think that's what David is. But I think the way we played in the second half of the season and how important Richarlison became to us, it was quite evident that this system also works with more of a target man, who there are some great men on this list as well in terms of target men, great strikers. But David isn't that. But his ball retention in the final third is really, really good. He doesn't need to be that big man to hold the ball up and maintain the pressure, which is something I think, especially in the second half of the season, we sort of lost that a little bit, the ability to maintain pressure in the opponent's box or in and around the box a little bit. And I think that's something David can definitely do. Good link-up play. He's good with back to goal as well. He's got a better passing rate than Son and Richarlison in terms of accurate passing percentage. Very instinctive. Like I said, he's got a great weak foot as well. Unlike Richarlison, he's not great in the air. But, however, I kind of feel like a lot of this depends on what happens with Richarlison. And if we keep Richarlison, I think someone like Jonathan David, given the price and given the alternative profile to him, is almost the perfect option, a little bit in a way, especially for the price tag. I mean, if you look at the numbers as well, with Jonathan David, 26 goals last season. I think he's coming off the back of a 35 goal and assist season as well. I think he got 30 goals and assists the season before, so he's pretty prolific, has been prolific at Lille. Prolific for the national team as well. And I'm torn on David, but I think I would chuck him into. I think I would definitely chuck him into good signing. I've kind of warmed to it a little bit over the last couple of days. I wasn't sure, but I think David would be. I think David would be a good signing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We can do a separate video on Jonathan David as well, and kind of break down a little bit more tactically in terms of his profile, etc., and how he'd fit Tottenham. But based off of that, I think he would suit Spurs quite nicely, and I think for the price, it's not really a risk either, because I think someone on Twitter made a good point about this. I think Postecoglou would quite like this signing, because I think he's got that within him that he would want to make someone like that, a bit of a project signing almost. He would want to turn him into a top striker. Would he want to go out and buy a proven number 9 that can hit the ground running? Absolutely. But Jonathan David can be that. I think with a bit of guidance from Postecoglou and almost make it his project a little bit, I think that could be quite exciting. I really do. Same with Joshua Xery, who I am gutted that Spurs aren't all over, to be honest. It seems as if he's going to go to Manchester United. 11 goals, 4 assists last season for Bologna, who were excellent last season. That side is getting picked apart a little bit. So well-rounded. He's got great feet, great hold-up play. He's got a powerful finish, but also that deft finishing ability as well. And I just think it's a massive shame that he's someone we haven't pursued. I think Alistair Gold said that he's someone that Spurs have scouted, but they aren't really interested at this specific time, which I think is a massive shame because I would put him straight in good signing. I think that's a bit of an oversight from Spurs personally, and a bit of a shame. Artem Dovbyk is an interesting one. Someone who I believe has been linked with Atletico Madrid in the last couple of days. 27 years old, most goals and assists in La Liga last season with 32. I think he got 24 goals and 8 assists. A very complete, well-rounded number 9. He hasn't quite shone at the Euros yet, but he is someone really exciting. It's a bit of a risk. He is a bit of a risk. Although he's very strong, he's difficult to stop. But to me, I feel like it could have flop written all over it a little bit. And I think he would be a bit of a risk. But I like what I've seen from Dovbyk so far. He's 27 years old as well. I'd quite like maybe, if we're going to go for someone around that age profile, I'd like them to be a little bit more proven. We'll come to some of those options in a minute because I think there definitely are some out there on the market. But Dovbyk has been excellent for Girona. Was excellent for Girona last season. Like I said, apparently linked with Atletico Madrid. I think Arsenal have maybe been linked in the last few months as well. So we'll see how that goes. Again, Arsenal's pursuit of a striker kind of depends on what this market looks like a little bit. Like I said, I've chucked some players in here that Spurs aren't necessarily linked with, but I think would be interesting options. And also the striker market this summer is massive. There are so many people that can move. Speaking of which, Julian Alvarez. Julian Alvarez is someone who would just be an incredible signing for Tottenham. And I've got a not realistic category on here. And I think he's got to go into there. But should he have to? Because I made a point about this in one of my TikTok videos. Go and follow me, Ben Talks Football on TikTok. Just past 20k, so thanks so much. And thanks so much for all the people that subscribe to YouTube as well. We're way past 500 now, on the road to 1,000, so I'd love to get there, maybe before the start of the season, if we can. So massive appreciation for anyone subscribed so far. Julian Alvarez, look at Arsenal, right? When Tottenham pipped Arsenal to Champions League football back in, 2022 under Conte, they went and signed Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko from Man City. Why can't that be this signing for us? He looks like he's going to move. And, I mean, to be honest, if we're looking at the strikers on this list, sorry if I keep looking over here, by the way, I've got the tier list there that I'm looking at now on one screen, but I've also got it on another screen as well, which is the screen I have to do the moving from. So if I look over here and look away from the camera at any point, I apologise for that. But Julian Alvarez would go here, like 100% go there. He'd go there straight away. Out of all these options, really, maybe other than a couple, I think he'd be amazing. He'd be absolutely amazing for Spurs. I kind of think he's the perfect Ange Postecoglou number 9. Incredible movement, great ability to sniff out chances around the box, works his arse off. I think he'd be incredible. But unfortunately, and I don't want to do this, I think he's got to go there. But he shouldn't have to. This is kind of my point. It's very frustrating. Anyway, next option, Ivan Toney. Now, it's been reported over the last couple of days from Alistair Gold that Ivan Toney is someone that we're not particularly looking at with a lot of, not necessarily fondness, but he's not someone that Spurs are looking at right now. The club are potentially playing down the links between Spurs and Ivan Toney, whether that's because they're trying to haggle over the price, or whether that's because they see a cheaper deal could get done further down the line, maybe, and they're saying, well, we're not really interested right now. Force Brentford to drive the price down because they haven't really got a lot of suitors. A lot of people, it seems, have pulled out of the race to sign someone like Ivan Toney. And you feel like, with where Spurs are at, that proven goal machine, well, it's not goal machine, but proven striker in the Premier League, brilliant hold-up play. Like I said, there's kind of two versions of what we see as a Postecoglou number 9. And I think Toney definitely suits a version of what that is. Also, there's been so many conversations around Toney's attitude. I don't have a problem with it personally. I think his attitude shows confidence. Yes, he's kind of been a little bit disruptive in terms of the interviews that he's done and that wanting to get out of Brentford, which is a shame. You wouldn't want to see that as a Brentford fan. But he backs himself. And I wouldn't mind that at Tottenham at all. Obviously, didn't have a great season last season coming back from the ban. Started off brilliantly and then sort of faded away a little bit. Was in and out of the team. But he's gone to the Euros. Hasn't featured yet. I think Ivan Toney, I think he'd be a great signing for Spurs. Part of me does think this whole thing of Spurs playing down the links is because they are trying to drive down the price from Brentford, who are holding out for a lot of money that I don't think they're going to get. And I think Spurs are saying that the David is their number one target. But I still think Toney is in there. I would not be surprised if Toney's in there. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ivan Toney. I love his confidence. I love his self-belief. He's got brilliant technical ability, great hold-up play. It's kind of the perfect replacement for Harry Kane in a way, a little bit. And I think that's why he was taken to the Euros. Obviously, Watkins kind of gives you that alternative option in terms of someone that could run in behind. But Toney, I think, is a perfect alternative to Harry Kane. 27 years old. Watkins is older as well. 27 years old, wants to move, wants that experience at a big club. And I think it could work out really well. Ivan Toney would be a great signing, I think. Let's do Watkins then. Let's get Watkins out of the way, because if I haven't annoyed Villa fans enough already by talking about the FFP situation, I think putting Ollie Watkins there would ruffle feathers even more a little bit, but it's just not realistic, is it? As much as I think Watkins would be great for Spurs, that's not going to happen. You can see some of the strikers that have appeared behind my head here as well. So the strikers that remain are Victor Boniface, Albert Gudmundsson, Alexander Isak, who we might as well straight away put him there, even though he would be right there. If there was a tier above that, I think he would be that. So versatile, so quick, brilliant dribbling ability. He is just incredible, Alexander Isak. An absolute bagsman. But I think you're looking at around 100 million, and that is not what Spurs are going to spend on a striker this summer. Although, I think The Athletic reported that Spurs were interested in Isak a while ago. Apparently, we are monitoring the situation, but that's kind of what we do at Spurs. But there's no way Isak would move to Spurs, not at this point in his career. I think he'll stay at Newcastle, whatever happens, really. Victor Boniface is someone that I wouldn't quite go as far as sack Johan Lang, but I would probably avoid. Didn't start a hell of a lot of games for Leverkusen, but his goal-to-game ratio was great, actually. 23 years old, good goal return with 21 goals in 34 games. He only started 18 games but scored 14 goals. But to me, I'm not sure that's what we need. I think if you're going to go with someone younger, you go with someone a little bit more dynamic like a David or a Xery. And if you're going to go with someone of that profile, I think you go with someone a little bit more proven like a Toney. So yeah, I've just realised there's a striker that is missing. There's a striker that is missing from this list. Let me add him on quickly. You'll see who he is in a second. Ta-da! That striker I forgot, as you can see, was Dominic Solanke, who was about to be one of the names that came off my lips as I was talking about more proven strikers in the Premier League, and I realised that he wasn't there. But yeah, Boniface is someone that I don't think Spurs should be looking at this time, to be honest. Gudmundsson, again, more of a sort of a number 10. Excuse me, more of a number 10. It can also play up front. Pretty impressive figures for Genoa, but I think I'd leave that alone as well. I would leave Guirassy alone. Again, I think the Guirassy one creeps more into the sack Johan Lang territory. I think it's 28 years old. It seems like he's going to move. Had a great season for Stuttgart, but yeah, I think that would be a pretty underwhelming signing if I'm being honest. Maybe that's being snobby. Let me know in the comments. Viktor Gyokores, I mean, you'd go put him right there, wouldn't you? You would put him right there. But I can't see Spurs spending 100-odd million on Viktor Gyokores or whatever his release clause is. However, who knows? I mean, it'd be interesting to see who goes in for Gyokores. Whether he'll end up at someone like Arsenal, I'm not sure. He's still got the Coventry kit on there as well, but he's obviously been incredible for Sporting Lisbon. I don't even need to reel off the numbers. I'm sure you know by now who Viktor Gyokores is. But I think that's just not quite realistic. Lois Openda. Now, this is a very interesting one because, again, I think he would go straight in there, potentially straight in there. I'm a massive fan of Openda. I think we've seen him substitute appearances at the Euros. Really frightening pace. He looks really, really good. 28 goals for Leipzig last season, only 24. He only moved last season, which is going to make it a very complicated deal to do. would be very expensive. Apparently, he's got a release clause of around 80 million euros, which becomes active next summer, and has got 4 years left on his current deal. Obviously, it was his debut season at RB Leipzig after moving from Lens, I think it was, previously at Vitesse before that. But according to Alistair Gold, Spurs have scouted him. Now, I'm sure Spurs have scouted all of the strikers on this list, and Openda being one of those. Like I said, amazing pace. I think it was one of the top 5 quickest players in the Bundesliga last year. Clinical with both feet, brilliant movement. He played out wide kind of in his formative years, I think, before he moved to Vitesse, or maybe it was at Vitesse and then moved to Lens. 15 goals with his right foot, 5 with his left, like I said, very clinical on both feet. I think it was an amazing replacement for Christopher Nkunku. There was going to be a bit of a void left when he left to go to Chelsea, but he's filled that incredibly well. In that kind of fluid system at RB Leipzig with the likes of Xavi Simons, Dani Olmo, of course, in that attacking setup. Only Harry Kane accumulated more XG in the Bundesliga than Lois Openda last season. He gets shots off. Only Kane had more shots as well. Also, one of the key things in terms of signings, I talked about this in my Conor Gallagher video, is that durability. He started 33 of 34 games for Leipzig last season, which in a league that a lot of players transfer to the Premier League from in the Bundesliga. How many exports have we seen from Germany coming over to England recently? The fact that they can be durable in the Premier League is a very similar physical league, pace, quick football. I think it'd be brilliant. Great off the ball work too. I think he won almost half of his duels as a striker, which is super impressive. But I just think with that, as much as I would absolutely love Openda, and for me, he would go right up there, if not certainly in here. I just think with the money, it's not a risk. I don't think it's a risk. But it's just not realistic just because of the money. But I would absolutely love him. Who we got next? Dusan Vlahovic. For me, goes straight into there. Bit of a risk. Someone that Spurs have looked at extensively in the past. He was kind of the first striker that we were linked with when Harry Kane was first being linked to Manchester City, when he was still at Fiorentina. Sharp, young. He's still got so much to prove, Vlahovic. I think he's only 24 years old, so there's so much to come. He's been very underwhelming at the Euros. Very underwhelming with Mitrovic. And he had an underwhelming season for Juventus last year. And I just think, yeah, I would leave that one alone personally. I like what he's about. I like his profile. I just don't think he's consistent enough. Yeah, not for me personally. Final 2 then. Santiago Jimenez, someone that's apparently, according to Alistair Gold, we've played down the links with quite a bit. Even though yesterday I think there was a source that came out basically saying we'd agreed to deal to sign him. Mexican striker, young, has had a great season with Feyenoord. Started it really well, scoring a lot of goals in the Champions League, but the goal scoring sort of levelled out over the course of the season. Yeah, I like Jimenez, but it's not, from what I've seen, I don't think he's the one to go all out for. And it's going to be interesting to see how much Spurs want to spend on the striker with a winger seemingly on the agenda as well, or someone like an Iberi Eze. Go and watch my video on him. Thanks very much for the support on that. So I would put that in a bit of a risk for now. Yeah, I like what Jimenez is about, but from what I've seen, I'm just not sure if his game is transferable to the Premier League. And that finally leaves us with Dominic Solanke, who for me absolutely goes straight into good signing. 19 goals, 3 assists last year in the Premier League. I think his all-round game has improved so much. I know that's kind of a bit of a... Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. Maybe it's a bit of Euros fever recording this before the England-Slovenia game tonight. Yeah, I think he's proved himself in the Premier League. Obviously, he's got that release clause, which I think is only available to be activated by a certain number of clubs in the Premier League and abroad. I think those that play in Europe, I think it's around 50 to 60 million, which is a lot of money. But for someone who I think is... How old is Solanke? Is he 25? Dominic Solanke is 1997, so he's 26. He's going to be 27 by the time the season starts. He's going to be 27 in September. Again, a bit like Toney, great age profile. What I loved about Solanke, there was a couple of goals that he scored to end the last season that were a bit reminiscent of Harry Kane, taking pop shots from outside the box, low and hard across the keeper, brilliant with his back to goal. I think we saw that in that game against Luton, that amazing back heel and then dink over the goalkeeper. I love what Solanke is about. I love his attitude. I think he's an Arsenal fan, which is a bit of a shame. But I think Solanke would definitely be in my top targets for sure. So I think now it's kind of the time to crown that, really. And if you're still watching the video, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe to the channel, share it with any Tottenham fans that you think you might like the content. Yeah, we've started brilliantly on YouTube, and I just want it to continue so much. Like I said, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the start of the season, the 19th of August, that home game to the away game to Leicester. Sorry, That would be amazing. So let's crown it then. And I want you to let me know in the comments as well who your number one striker choice would be. I want you to let me know almost like if all bets were off, you know, money, the money isn't involved. Spurs have got all the money in the world to spend. Go and get that player. Let me know that, but also let me know your almost more realistic target as well. I'm still leaning towards one of these two, Toney or Solanke, just because they're already in the Premier League. I think they're both an upgrade slightly on Richarlison. I think it would mean that you would maybe be able to move Richarlison on and get some money from him, as much as I love Richie. I think David would be the perfect striker to compete with Richarlison. But then again, it kind of begs the question of what do you do with Veliz? What do you do with Scarlett? What do you do with Troy Parrott? What do you do with Will Lancashire? Obviously, Lancashire and Scarlett, not so much of a worry, but Parrott, again, I think that's someone that Spurs might look to cash in on too. It's really close. I don't think it's going to be... It won't be Xerxes because I think, again, I think he looks like he's going to Manchester United. So it's between David, Toney and Solanke, the ones that almost feel the most hot a little bit. I've kind of convinced myself over the course of this video that it's Jonathan David. But for me, I think I'm still here. I think I am still there. I like what Toney's about. He's proven in the Premier League. Yes, he's coming off the back of a poor half season with Brentford. But I think he'd be brilliant at Tottenham. I think he'd be brilliant at Spurs. And I think a lot of fans were sort of starting to warm to it as well. And then we got the news yesterday that maybe Spurs aren't looking at him as strongly as we thought. Yeah. I've convinced myself more on David, but I'm going to stick with Toney. So let me know in the comments below if you've enjoyed the video. Let me know your number one striker target. As I said, let me know what you think of any of these links. As always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and up the Spurs. Come on, you Spurs.